then we'll start. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Hi, my name is Reverend Dale Brown, and I have the great joy and privilege of being the senior pastor here at Community Church in Ocean Pines. One of the very important ministries we have in this church is called Stephen Ministry. It's a one-on-one caring ministry by trained persons who are working with a person of their same gender, providing friendship, a listening ear, and a concerned heart. And they are vital in what they do because they extend the ministry of the church greatly. They will visit with and be assigned to persons in the church, but also persons outside the life of the church. Just someone or anyone that needs someone who cares about them, their life, and wants to bring the love of God into that relationship. So I'm privileged to be here with two of our new Stephen ministers. They have just completed their educational process, their training, and on the 18th, I believe, guys, you will be commissioned and become official. And so I welcome them this morning as we will talk a little bit about what it means to be a Stephen minister. So, Luetta, I always believe that ladies go first. So, I'm going to ask you, what was it about the Stephen Ministry program and opportunity that attracted you to volunteer for this?
Well, so many of my friends are Stephen ministers, and I was kind of feeling left out, but because of my disability, I don't get around as well as I could, and I couldn't do other missions. I felt this was something I could do, and it involves helping people. In other words, we're a Christ mission for people, by people.
Okay.
And it was something I felt drawn to do to help my friends and help my neighbors.
Okay. Do you feel like, because I want to follow up with something you said that I thought was very interesting, do you feel like that maybe even at some level it helps you yourself?
Oh, absolutely. And even the training I have used on my family by learning.
How did it go?
Well, they're not aware of it.
Okay.
But,
well, I mean, did it go okay? Tell
yes,
them.
I think I'm realized.
Okay.
Listening is a big part of this mission. And that was one of the reasons I wanted to take the training is I tend to talk to people, but I don't always listen. And
I think we all do that.
And this is something that I needed, and I had to be conscious of doing. And it's going to help when I get someone to treat.
Now, Luetta, I know you as a very, very nice lady, and I know that you care deeply about people, because in my vernacular, you're called the plant lady.
Oh.
Because you pot plants and you give them to persons who might just need to be cheered up or be let them know that somebody's thinking about them.
Well, I have to be very careful about who wants plants.
I know you do.
And who doesn't.
It's like giving away a kitty or a puppy.
Oh, yes. And I've offered plants to my friends, too, and they're not always willing.
They don't run and hide from you?
Sometimes.
Okay.
But
you do it out of a caring heart.
I do it out of a caring heart, but I also love to have my hands in dirt.
Yeah.
And it helps me.
Okay.
Helps me mentally, and it's something I...
So that's a self-care act as well.
Yes, absolutely. Something I got from my mother.
Okay, good. I understand that because I like planting and potting.
Yeah.
Things, and the only gripe I have with living in Ocean Pines is that I can't grow anything because of the roots and the shade. And if that's the only gripe I have, I'm in pretty good shape.
Yeah, you're in pretty good shape.
I am. So let me turn to Austin here for a second. Austin, what is it that draws you into becoming a Stephen minister? What was attractive to you?
Well, like Luetta, I tend to talk a lot to people and not listen. So I wanted to learn how to speak with others, listen to others, and I go on these visitations sometimes to help fix computers, and I wanted to learn about properly discussing topics with them about Christianity.
Okay. So you wanted to practice and learn about active listening.
Yes.
I got tickled because you said you talk a lot to people.
Yes.
And Austin has been in some classes that I've taught, and I will say every time we start the class, everybody has to speak, and that means you, Austin. And then at times I call him because he still hasn't spoken. So that's a whole different side of seeing you. And I think sometimes that's a perception thing. We think we're talking a lot, and we're not listening, or something. But you know, you talk an appropriate amount. I mean, you're balanced in that. But I do understand the desire to improve all of our listening skills. Even a pastor like myself, who served for almost 30 years now, or somewhere along in there, we need to practice that. We need to be reminded that listening is, as Luetta said, at the core of who we are. I think it's interesting, Austin, for you, that you have something that you can connect to people through, and that's your tech training and computer skills, because we have a lot of people, including myself, who will say, Austin, I need you. And it's not so much for deep emotional things, but it's for computer work. And then once you're there, the chance becomes that you can talk to people and to relate to them. I know there's a family in the church, and he's a Vietnam vet, and his wife has some health issues that you've become very close to and become connected to. So that's a good open door. That skill is important. And a lot of times missionaries that have gone overseas, they've used skills like education and healthcare and things to open a door, and that's a good thing. So I'm going to stick with Austin for just a second here, and Austin, tell me about the training you received. A little bit. What was the highlight of your training opportunity? Now you did 50 hours, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what was the highlight for you?
The hard part for me was trying to do these situations where they would give you what to do, and then you would follow along with the book. And
so
I actually like doing them after a bit, because
so the practice, like, you know, okay, I know what you mean. I'm trying to think of the word and I can't think of it right now. Scenarios or role playing or things like and things. So what made them hard? Was that because? But
part of it was the not speaking, like you said.
Yeah.
So I speak a lot with my family, but then around other people, I'm very quiet.
So Grandma and Grandpa get it, but we don't hear it. Okay. All right. So you know, I think that one of the things, role playing can be tough because there's some level of reality about it, and there's also a level of falseness about it, because we really do know that the person sitting across the table from us doesn't have some dreaded disease that they picked up in the tropics, but we want to try to keep that in mind, that we're there for a purpose. I remember role playing and those types of things when I was taking clinical pastoral education, and they could be hard. They really could. So Luetta, what was your greatest challenge or your high point?
That's I agree with him that the role playing is tough. And once you got into it, it felt real. And but you wanted to say the right thing, and not look foolish in front of the class too, in front of your peers. But it was a challenge. From your, of course not. But
so what?
It was a challenge from the other peers to do the right thing.
So it was a good example of peer pressure.
Absolutely.
So what in your thinking would make you look foolish?
Just if we did what our instructor told us not to, such as touching. We're not supposed to touch them unless they give us permission, and we're not supposed to give advice. We're there to listen.
Right.
And what else, Austin?
And we're not supposed to say "I'm sorry," which I do a lot.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for your situation.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, I think that the touching part is important,
but you have to ask their permission.
Yeah, and the reason I think
prayer.
And the reason I think it's important is because, touch can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and since this is a gender-specific role,
Right.
because we want to be protective of women and men, and we don't want anything negative to happen
Absolutely
to anybody.
not, no.
You know, we need to be very appropriate in
Yeah.
asking that, and that's a good lesson.
In the beginning,
good
it
lesson to
seems
learn.
like there's so many rules,
Yeah,
but I think it'll get more comfortable the more we do it.
yeah. You know, and if there's someone who is in need or in crisis,
Yeah,
I will, as a pastor, always say to them, if I know them well enough, can I give you a hug?
right.
And things, you know, and because you don't want someone who's not in their best frame of mind
And I think that's
or feeling
easier
vulnerable.
with women, one-on-one.
Yeah.
That's easier for women.
And it's you know, and in the pastoral role, I get to know people at a very deep level.
Right.
I've also been a chaplain, and you know, you don't have that same connection to
No.
people. You might see them once or maybe twice, and it's very different reality.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
cool.
we're only supposed to be there on average of an hour.
Yeah.
So that doesn't give you much time.
And you have one person each.
Yes.
And
So
you're-
far. So
well, I mean,
I don't know if
yeah.
you're challenged to do more or not, but so
You know,
far in the,
I think
beginning.
I think you
that's
start
good.
with one
That's good.
and things, but you know, one of the sad things is that sometimes the need outgrows or outpaces the people that we have available. So we're always looking for volunteers who will go through the training and things, and it is a pretty rigorous training,
that may seem daunting, 50 hours, but it goes by fast.
and it's fun. I mean,
It
you
is
get to make
fun.
friends and all kinds of stuff.
It's become a family, I think.
Yeah.
And the
Absolutely.
trainers are easy, they're loving. And,
Since I was one of those, thank you.
Yes, yes.
I was just a small part of that. But I think you're right. You become a family with that class.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And from a pastoral,
We begin to trust them.
yeah, and from the pastoral perspective, you know, each of the persons in this group goes to different services. We have 3 services
Yeah.
here, and you get to know people at a very deep level that you wouldn't otherwise, just your fellow sisters and brothers in Christ, which
Right,
is a
right.
great asset as well. So I want to ask Austin the next question. You get ready, okay?
Oh dear.
All right, it's not going to be hard.
Okay.
Austin, what type of person would most excite you to work with, and what type of person are you afraid at this point in time as you begin your journey to work with?
Well, it's a little of a hard question, but
Okay.
if I think about it, the ones I'm excited to work with are close to my age and having maybe, or even not my age, but having anxiety, which I've dealt with in the past.
Okay. So if I was here and with you, as I am, but in a different role, and I had anxiety, how would you go about helping me?
I would just start off with introducing myself, and then I would try to take you through the training which we've learned. Try not to talk about yourself, but maybe put a word or two in there about I've dealt with this before, or I.
You know what I do when I learned this when I was doing chaplaincy, and I trained chaplains for a while. I would say, is it okay if I tell you a story about something that happened to me that might be similar to what you're feeling?
Yes.
I always ask their permission because, you know, everybody assumes that we always know how someone else is feeling,
Yeah.
and that's not true. And we're not always the only one who we have similar experiences, but we don't have identical
Yes.
experiences. Okay, so what else would you do for me?
And I would pray for you as long as you gave me permission to do that.
Okay, and would you ask me what to pray about?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I think that's important too, to ask what to pray about, because we might assume that we're going to pray about one thing,
Yeah.
and it might be a totally different thing. I remember one hospital visit I made, and I really thought, okay, I want to pray for this guy who's in the bed in front of me. He's ill. He's nearing death and things. He didn't want prayer for him. He was very happy with or consigned to his fate. He wanted prayer for his wife and children who would be left, who would survive him.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, who do you fear the most?
I think the hardest for me would be those with cancer, because that has affected my family deeply.
Okay. And we call that reality where something that's happened in your life
Yeah.
and it makes it harder. We call that transference. And that's a very common and real thing. So you have the ability as a Stephen minister to say, I feel comfortable with this, I don't feel comfortable with this, and with the person who assigns you, they need to be aware of that,
Yeah.
and they can help perhaps in making the assignment as well. You know, there's all kinds of needs out there, and we need people, care, for all kinds of different ones.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Miss Luetta, same
Uh,
question for you. What person
Thank you,
excites
Austin, for going first. It's
Yeah.
you did have some excellent
He did well,
ideas.
didn't he?
Did well.
He's okay.
Um,
He's okay.
and I think prayer is important when the kind of person I would, I guess, I'm open for most anyone. I guess someone going through a broken marriage or someone going through loss of a husband.
Mm-hmm.
That might be a little intimidating because I still have a husband and
You're
we're
a great guy.
Yeah, and it's frightening to have to go through like that. So
Because
maybe
you-
that would be the most frightening.
When you're dealing with something like that, you're also feeling like what would
Internalizing.
happen.
Internalizing,
You know,
yeah.
if something had happened to Lee, and we
Right.
pray that that does not, or anybody.
And
but
I think just always being there for that person, no matter what you feel. You can't let anyone know what you're feeling,
okay.
and kind of let them take the charge, take the lead.
This is one of those times when your purpose is not to fix it.
Right.
Because the
Absolutely.
truth is,
It's all in God's
no one
hands.
of us can fix it.
No.
It is in God's hands. And that person, who, whatever the situation is, needs to make their own authentic personal choices.
Yeah.
You know, I can decide something for Austin, but it may not be real and true for what Austin's life allows for, and not work. And he'd come back and say, "You gave me bad advice,"
Oh.
or "You did this," and things,
Yeah.
and his thing is truth. So, who do you? I mean, is there some group of people that you really like to work with?
Well, who have problems?
Yeah, I mean, that you might get
Well,
assigned to as a Stephen minister.
I've talked to a lot of my friends who are going through illnesses,
Okay.
and I can kind of console them and maybe just listen to them. That's all they
Okay.
need is somebody to listen.
So, someone who's roughly in your age group.
Absolutely. No,
And-
I shouldn't say absolutely because I'm not open. I'm not closed to
Right, I
a
understand,
certain age,
but
but
we're
I can
asking
relate.
preferences.
Yeah, I can relate to people closer to my age.
And you know, you had some challenges recently in life, and maybe somebody whose mobility is a little bit limited,
Right.
and things like that. So, you know, I understand that. I have, as a pastor, and I think all of us have, those persons that we, you know, think, we don't want anyone to have problems, but if they come through the door, we feel really comfortable. And there's always surprises even in that
Yeah,
reality.
okay.
But there are other persons who come through the door and we're thinking, oh no, I'm not good at this. I will tell you, you know, I've been divorced for 16 or 17 years
Yeah.
now. I do not like doing premarital counseling. It
tough.
brings back that
Right.
that failure.
Yeah.
And you know, it's been a while and life has
Yeah.
been good, but you still have that sense of loss.
Oh, I did for a long.
And
I
things
know
like
what
that.
you're saying,
Yeah.
but it's been a lot longer for me, and I felt the same way for a long time. But as time goes by,
Yeah.
I can listen and know what they're going through.
And I'll be turning 60 this year, so you know, but the
And a
group,
grandfather.
and hopefully a grandfather very soon. But the group I get excited about listening to are young adults. So you know, young adults have an excitement for life and anticipation, and I still at my age believe there's a lot of life out there.
Sure.
It's in God's hands. We don't control it. We just live into it. But I'm excited about learning new things, and I'm excited when I hear stories about going to college here, or I'm going to work here, or I'm joining the armed services and things. And you know, I really think, and talking about what group I most enjoy working with as a pastor, I think there are challenges that young adults face today
Oh.
that I had a
Yeah.
wonderful mom and dad. We weren't. No one of us were perfect,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of challenges out there that
Young
that are
people.
hard.
Young people.
And one of the groups that seems to show the most anxiety, if you were talking about levels of stress, and things are young adults, because the world doesn't seem to offer, and things. So I don't
Offer
know,
support for
well,
that group.
and they they're young. You shouldn't feel this way, and
Right.
and the truth is,
Yeah,
it's
that's-
your right to feel whatever way
Yeah.
you want to feel. And I'll tell you the other group I like working with. I have the job of mentoring persons as they begin ministry. So if they feel that God's got a call in their lives, they
Yeah.
write a letter to our superintendent. then I take over and begin to work with them and help them get ready for the meetings with DCOM and certification. I've invested my whole life in this, guys, and I like that, that sense that there's someone who feels called coming after me. And I love the church, and I love this church, and I just love the idea that it will continue. And I'm excited for what young people bring to the church. It's different than what I brought. I still like hymns. I mean, most young people don't know any hymns. Do you know a hymn?
I know a couple from church.
Yeah, you see, he paused there for a second.
I was trying to think of one.
Yeah, see, but
Like
I mean,
How
it's
Great
different than it's different than what I grew up with. We grew up singing the old hymns of the church every Sunday, but no. So Stephen Ministry, it's a really important and vital ministry of Community Church at Ocean Pines, and I think that one of the things that we'll be doing for the next couple of podcasts is talking about Stephen Ministry. My plan is that I've got another group of persons from this same class, that larger family that Luetta was talking about, who will be here in just either this week or next week. I'm not sure how Austin will broadcast them, talk more about their experience. And then we'll have Jack come and talk about the history of Stephen Ministry here at Community Church. It's a rich history. And we kind of went down a little bit. Now we're picking back up. And Jack was our leader, and Mary Stover and Mary Boyd. They were celebrating the fact that these guys are young now. And that's a great thing, because we do need young people as a part. We need people of every age. And, the United Methodist Church believes that every one of us is called, not just clergy, we're called to some form of ministry, and every one of us is gifted. So we're sending out two very gifted people here, and I'm proud of them as their pastor. And I love and I know them. I love them. And I know they're going to do great things. They're going to make mistakes, and we learn through our mistakes. And guess what?
We have support.
You have support. But the other thing is,
maybe that's what might frighten someone about, because I was assured that our leaders would always be there.
Yeah.
And if we run into a problem, our pastor as well is there.
I'm scared of that too.
And our leaders.
Well, the thing is,
can help us through
but
it.
all this, even our mistakes, if done in love, can serve the purpose that God calls us. And I make mistakes every single day. And I think people,
But we're
if
not,
you're
we're
caring,
not,
they
we're
understand.
not just sent out
willy-nilly.
Nilly-willy, because we're
Or is it nilly-willy or willy-nilly?
nilly-willy.
You're nilly-willy.
I'm
I'm willy-nilly.
nilly-willy.
All right. So we're getting off track here.
Right.
But at any rate, congratulations, Luetta.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Austin. These are two of our new graduates of the training program. You're going to meet Wayne and Teresa here in just a few moments, or whenever the next podcast comes out. Please do watch and listen, and encourage other people to watch and listen to the podcast. And also, consider Stephen Ministry as a place where your gifts and abilities can be used. If that's not your calling, that's okay, because we can help you find a place of service in God's greater world. Thank you, and may God bless you.